Hello and welcome to this episode of Point Counterpoint. We are here to celebrate a moment of a great victory which has been bestowed upon us by the High Court due to the relentless efforts of the petitioners and all the well-wishers of the environment and wildlife of Goa. This landmark judgment not only pertains to the protection of tigers, wildlife, environment, our river Mahadevi and so on and so forth, but it also sends a very clear message and signal all over the country wherever the so-called quote-unquote development forces are at odds with the real environment forces, that at the end of the day our nature and our wildlife and our ecosystems need to be preserved because the law enables it to do. It just needs a proper political will and good governance to ensure that our purest of resources are ultimately saved. Before I introduce very eminent panelists and stakeholders and people who've been in the heart of this struggle to preserve the very values that I've just referred to, is a little note or some lines from the Mahabharata which the Honorable Bench quoted right in the beginning of the 24th July judgment, and they actually quoted from an Ntca report on the status of tigers in 2022, and I'll read those translated lines, of course, from the Mahabharata. If there is no forest, then the tiger gets killed. If there is no tiger, then the forest gets destroyed. Hence, the tiger protects the forest and the forest guards the tiger. I think it is on this note that we should start this discussion, because that kind of underlines everything that is true, that is genuine, as opposed to the entirely fake narrative which has been fed to prevent the notification of the tiger reserve in Goa at all costs by people and by leaders who are mandated to protect the forests. So, before we go into this whole story of protectors becoming destroyers, I will introduce a panel that needs no introduction, but we are very honoured and privileged for them to be here and to discuss this. Rajendra Kerkar is somebody who nobody needs to know specially, because he's been such a big crusader of the forests and wildlife and of course the Mahadevi, and as one of the key people in the Mahadevi Bachao Abhiyan, he has fought not just for tigers but for the protection of the river Mahadevi as well. The person of the moment, Advocate Norma Alvarez, of course we are indeed honoured and grateful to have her here. It is due to her and Claude Alvarez's relentless fight to see that Goa gets a tiger reserve that has borne fruit and this is a petition that was filed way back, and I think it's been a 5-year battle.
Yes.
To get this. They worked quietly behind the scenes. Very few people realize the relentless research, the RTI applications, and the data that needs to be gathered to present a case where where the judgment was very strong and righteous. Then on the left of Norma we have Milind Karkanis, one of our regular guests, and we are privileged to have him here. He is with the State Board of Wildlife, senior retired forest officer whose heart still lies in the forests, even though he doesn't go to the office anymore. Norma, I will start with you for obvious reasons. I don't have a specific question, barring the fact that what does this judgment tell us?
See, the judgment tells us many things, among which is that people and wildlife cannot be opposed to each other. That for people to survive, the wildlife has to survive also.
Right.
Because as the court said, if there is no tiger, there is no forest. If there is no forest, they didn't go further. How do we live if we do not have the green around us? What do we survive on? There will be no pollination, there will be the water resources will disappear, everything will go. So basically, I think the message that the court was giving very strongly is that human beings are dependent on nature. It may not be the other way around. Nature may not depend on our survival, but we definitely need nature around us in order to survive. And if we think that we can keep encroaching on our natural resources, on our forests, on our coastal areas, in all the areas which we have to protect and save, then we are spelling our own doom, and we have nobody else responsible for that collapse of society which could happen one day because of our mistakes and errors. I think this is the primary message, tigers apart, that the court is sending out, that look, you are part of the nature. As in fact the court, I don't know if it's in the judgment, but I remember the judge saying, I think it's in the judgment, that we make laws which favor us, but in the real world everybody is equal. The laws of nature don't make anything special for humans. We have got to survive. That is a big message.
Two quick questions before I go to Rajan Bab and then to Milind Bab. Firstly, Norma, why did Goa Foundation file this, number one? And secondly, I'll do both the questions together. The other is the government has been consistently opposing this. And even they said that we informed the court that we are opposed to it. So two things, why did Goa Foundation go it and why did the government oppose it?
Well, actually it is entirely circumstances that led to the filing of the PIL. In January 2020, 4 tigers were killed, ostensibly poisoned by villagers due to cattle loss, and this made headlines. Now, we were as taken aback in Goa Foundation as the citizens of Goa that 4 tigers killed overnight, body after body being discovered, and the villagers were held responsible for these deaths. Now, the fact remains that there must have been something which upset the villagers so much that they poisoned the tigers, if at all they did. And we have lived in the village. I have lived in Satari for 5 years, and we know that people are very much attuned to nature. They don't hate the tigers. They don't hate wild animals. They live with them. They are aware of the animals being in their surroundings. What would lead to people killing such a majestic creature as a tiger when they are not going to eat that meat? So they are not killing it for food. Obviously, it was the loss of cattle which was a pain for them, economically crippling, and the fact that when they told the Ntca who visited that area to do a report on it, they said that in previous times when cattle had been killed, they never got compensation. And that is one of the remarks that Ntca makes in its report, that the procedure for getting compensation is so long and so tedious, and you got to trudge from office to office, that you just bemoan the death of your cattle by the tiger, and in that moment, in that anger, you poison whatever destroys your food. So I don't have any enmity, or I do not condemn the villagers at all for what they did. I blame the government for not compensating people and going to their rescue when they need help. Because of the death of the 4 tigers, we said we must find out something about this issue. We started RTIs, and to our surprise and shock, you can say, we discovered that way back in 2011, the then Environment Minister Jairam Ramesh had written to the then Chief Minister Digambar Kamath saying that please set up a tiger reserve for Goa. We have done a survey in 2008 and we have found the presence of tigers in Goa. Nothing came of it. Then in 2014, there was an all India survey done where they found that there were 5 tigers in Goa. That is what prompted the National Tiger Conservation Authority to send a recommendation to the Goa government saying that it is in the fitness of things that Goa declares an area as a tiger reserve. We did more research.
The March 31st, 2016 letter of the Ntca.
We did a little more research and found that Indeed, the Goa government had responded promptly, in the sense that immediately within 2 months, the Chief Conservator of Forests wrote to the Deputy Conservator of Forests saying, we have received this letter from Ntca, please go into the issue and prepare the tiger reserve boundaries, what should we include. Letters go back and forth, they come back again and again to the government, to the Forest Department. Forest Department actually marks the area for the tiger reserve.
That's right.
By 2018, they prepare a note. In 2016, it went to the state board. Did the state board say no? The state board said, they didn't say yes, but they didn't say no. What they said was, please send us the proposal of the tiger reserve for approval before it is sent to Ntca. Meaning thereby, yes, we are in favor of this.
That's correct.
In 2018, the Forest Department prepared the final plan and the note and sent it to the state board, when the then chairperson of the board said that do a study on what is the impact on the fringe people residing there, and that was the last of it. It simply came to a grinding halt and never came up again. This is what led us to file the petition, saying that if this is the state of affairs, and as a result of the government's carelessness, which is 2018, they had a full program ready. In 2020, 4 tigers have died. Therefore, we filed the petition. In that same year, within 3 months, I think by April 2020, we had filed the petition. Now, your second question was the
government opposition. What I'll do is I'll just get Rajan Babu and I'll come back to it, and then I'll come back just to break it up a little. Rajan Babu, in para 19 of the judgment, there's a very nice 4 or 5 lines I wanted to quote and then leave it to you. The World Wildlife Fund India describes the tiger as an unique animal which plays a pivotal role in the health and diversity of the ecosystem. It is a top predator at the apex of the food chain. Therefore, the presence of tigers in the forest is an indicator of the well-being of the ecosystem. You have also said the same thing in many ways, in many of your things. Now, the issue is that I'll ask the same question. How significant is this judgment, and what do you make of the efforts to scuttle the judgment and go to the Supreme Court?
Actually, this is the historic judgment, and Madam Padma Shri Norma Alvarez, her efforts, her contribution is indeed great. I remember when in 2011, Dr. Gadgil committee was there in Goa for Western Ghat ecology expert committee panel. So during that time, Dr. Cloud Alvarez requested me to present the tiger proposal, and the tiger proposal was presented before Dr. Gadgil. He asked me several questions, and then I gave reply to him. Why, the tiger, from my childhood, I was when I was preparing for SSC, I remember I used to go for the sleep only when at 2:30 I got the call from the tiger. Now it is the time, because every night 2:30 I could hear the roar of the tiger in the jungle of the Molegat. So the tiger was just like the friend for me, and when I saw that the herbivorous animal like the sambars are killed in my village, I was realized that this will be the very pathetic situation, and then we presented the proposal to Governor of Goa, Lieutenant General Jacob, and he shouted at me, who is telling you the tigers are there in Goa? Tigers are coming from Karnataka. Then I told him, tigers are there in Goa and I have the concrete evidence. Then he told the Keval Sharma, the forest secretary, you collect the evidences from me. Within 1 week I want it. So immediately I gave him the concrete evidence of the presence of the tiger. The nail was presented to him. It was a crime. But when people once upon a time in Wagure, for example, where they were worshipping tiger as a god, and if you kill the tiger, there was a feeling that whole family will going to get the wrath of the tiger god. So no one was there to kill the tiger in that area, and now we have the example wherein the tigers are killed. So then Richard D'Souza, who was the conservator of the forest, he also supported what I was telling through the evidences which his team collected. and then on 31st of June 1999 the wildlife sanctuary became reality. So after that every government, every politician, every MLA from my areas were struggling to denotify the area, and I realized that if this materializes, then our tiger, our wildlife will be threatened. And I always consider tiger as a unique, as a majestic. If you protect the tiger, then only the Mahadai will going to flow continuously.
Milibab, what is very surprising and also funny is that this constant narrative that the powers that be were trying to espouse in the court and outside, that the fact that there appears to be no tiger presence in Goa. The whole narrative was to dilute the presence of tigers in Goa, when the fact is just exactly the opposite. What is also interesting is, as Advocate Normal will also bear with me and confirm this, even in the court there were documents presented by you on the minutes of meetings which led to the formation of the wildlife sanctuary, and there the presence of tigers was very much mentioned in the justifications for having it there.
Absolutely, the justification says tiger is there.
Right. Then on para 21 of the judgment, it says the research and scientific reports produced by several government and non-government agencies established the presence of the tiger in the protected areas of Goa. The Ntca maps indicating tiger presence not only within the boundaries of Goa but in the contiguous regions of the neighbouring states of Karnataka and Maharashtra are shown below for convenience. My question to you is that, trying to narrow the whole discussion to tigers in Goa, the very fact that tigers in Goa, there is no doubt. But the point is, everybody seems to be missing the fact, I mean people who are opposed to it, and deliberately so, is that we are not only talking of Mahadai, we are talking of a contiguous forest corridor, and which is why it's called the Kotegaon Mahadai Forest Complex. So if a little bit on that, and what has been your experience as a senior forester on the whole issue of the tiger presence in these areas?
See, during my service, I have worked almost in all parts of Goa, all forests of Sahyadri in Goa, and right from this Mahadai sanctuary till Kotegaon,
right,
and even beyond,
right,
Karwar side.
Yes.
All these areas are infested with tiger. There is pakka, sure.
Right.
And I did not see actually the tigers with my own eyes.
Right.
But I had seen many evidences, and which could not be sidetracked.
Right.
The evidences had to be accepted.
Right.
So from that point of view,
right,
when tigers are there present all over the eastern length of Goa state,
right,
their presence just could not be and cannot be denied. No?
Right.
Cannot
right.
be denied.
Right. One more quick question. See, the State Board of Wildlife, before this present regime, as it were, got into preventing the whole situation to happen, the State Board of Wildlife all along has been completely supportive of the tiger reserve demand. Even during your time, or Mr. Richard D'Souza was also there, at all points of time, the State Wildlife Board has been very, very supportive. It is only now that there has been a completely turnaround. If you can just re-establish or reconfirm, Milind Bab, as to what the State Board of Wildlife always kind of felt, always espoused as far as tigers were concerned. My question is, the State Board of Wildlife all throughout has been very supportive of this, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It has been very supportive. What is your exact question?
My question is that during your time or even after that, what has been the role of the State Board of Wildlife? There have been occasions all throughout whether they've actually supported.
See, there have been times I have seen the State Board of Wildlife. I can go back to the year 1990s.
Right.
1990s.
Right.
The State Board of Wildlife used to have studious members, and they used to come in the well prepared in the meeting, and they used to argue fiercely. It should be this, it should not be this, like that. And they used to be supported by the concerned authorities.
Higher ups.
That slowly I found that they declined. or those such type of people.
The commitment, you mean?
No, such people who are studious and who can argue about a certain point
Right.
fiercely,
Right.
and put up the point very forcefully.
Right.
Such people, they were not included in, or maybe they were not there later on.
Right.
I would give an example of that one MLA was there from this place, Kumardev or somewhere. What is his name? Doctor
Kashinath.
Kashinath Zalmi.
Correct.
He was such a person. He used to come in the restaurants and sit for days and study the whole thing, and then he used to put up one after other so many points. And he was the main person who was doing it. Thereafter, I did not see anybody.
Right. Now, coming back to my second question.
Yes.
As to the why do you think that the state has been opposing the tiger reserve?
Sujoy, to be very frank, in its affidavits and in its presentation, the state never opposed having a tiger reserve for Goa.
Right.
They never opposed. This might come as a surprise to you, because at one time I have read in the papers that the Chief Minister said that we informed the court.
Right.
Actually, no, they never said in any affidavit, 3 affidavits were there,
Right.
they never said that they were opposed.
Right.
What they said is, the petition is premature.
Right.
We have not yet responded.
Right.
And there are reasons why we are not able to accede to a tiger reserve right now.
Right.
The reasons they gave us this. One, as I said, they said it was premature. Secondly, they said the Ntca recommendation is not mandatory. We are not bound to follow it. It is directory. Thirdly, they said that we cannot do notify a tiger reserve until we finally do the declaration for a wildlife sanctuary. Section 18 is when you first notify it. Then you settle rights of people. The collectors appointed, and they settle the rights, and then you finally do the final declaration, that is 26A. They said we have not done 26A. Till that time we cannot notify a tiger reserve. Fourthly, they said we have not settled the rights of people. The court to that asked them, how long are you going to take to settle the rights?
Right.
And they had no answer.
Right.
Fifthly, they said very strangely that why should we protect only the tiger? Everybody has to get protection. All wildlife has to get protection, equal protection.
Right.
Therefore, there is no need to protect the tiger only, and we are having proper management of the wildlife sanctuaries.
Right.
Therefore, these were their objections. The court asked the Advocate General twice,
Right.
is the government opposed to a tiger reserve? And he said, no, the issue is not now, not immediately now.
Right.
They never opposed the tiger reserve. So these were the objections that they put up before the court, each of which could be answered legally, not emotionally, but legally, because I was able to show that once Chapter 4, which was introduced in 2006 into the Wildlife Protection Act, it deals with setting up of the Ntca, National Tiger Conservation Authority, and the Tiger Framework for India. There the law is that you do not have to wait for final declaration, you do not have to wait for settlement of rights. Do it while the tiger reserve has been notified, after the tiger reserve has been notified, because you get the advantage of a huge amount of money that the central government can give you to settle people's rights and so on. So, where is the issue which is arising? This is the state government's response. I was shocked when I saw that they have now, state board has taken a decision that we do not want, when they never took such a decision earlier. They only said, send us the proposal before it goes.
And the decision was taken when the judgment was reserved.
Yes.
The best part is when the judgment is reserved. I think judgment was reserved on the 10th of July.
Yes.
They took this call between the 10th and the pronouncement of the judgment
All
on the
of
24th.
a sudden,
Yes.
the letter has come to you in 31st March 2016, and you wake up suddenly in 2023
Correct.
to take a response and send it back. But the state board cannot take a decision, Sujoy. The state has got to set up a steering committee to take a decision on
correct.
this. That's
Correct.
the law.
Correct.
State board is nobody, but out of courtesy it can go to them. There is no reason to say that they should not say anything. but they are not the authority at all to say yes or no.
Rajan Bab, slight political question, but important in this whole context. Advocate Norma outlined the matters in court and what the state government's position was. You are a man of the forest and the streets. What do you think is the hidden motive behind objecting this fierce refusal to have it as a tiger reserve? There has to be a hidden motive.
So in 1999, when the sanctuary was notified, during that period, there were mining leases operational. And if you look that after notification, it was bounden duty of the government to stop all this mining operation. But in spite of this, the government did not taken any note of it, no action was taken. So we approached to the Centered Empowered Committee through the Goa Foundation. I wrote everything. I provided the photos of all these areas.
Yes.
Right from Ravandungar to Malpon area, where I was tracking, I was knowing these areas. So all this was presented, and the Centered Empowered Committee's member secretary issued the letter to the Goa government. Forget about mining ore, not even grass you could remove from this area.
This was the CEC's.
Yeah, Centered Empowered Committee in 2003, they have on the 7th of the November said it. So after that, the government had to close down all these mines. Now the politician in my area, he is dreaming that he will going to start the mining, and the effort was made in spite of the notification. You can see in 2011, effort was made to start dead mine in Brahma Karmali. You can see this is the horticulturally rich area. I was invited for the program.
In 2011, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I was invited for the program, and suddenly the announcement was made that environmentalist is there, so he should explain us what are the ill effect of the mining activities. So then I said that this is totally illegal. The whatever public hearing organized by the Mines and Geology Department is totally illegal, and already I have written to them that this whole area, the mining lease, comes in the core area of the wildlife sanctuary. So you cannot start it. Now, if you go to Sattari Taluka, before the decision, a memorandum circulated to the supporter, and they are told collect the signature, and what they are writing, villagers of Sattari are writing, mining is the backbone of us, and the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change should allow us to resume the mining activities. When the CEC has already given the decision, these are the motives. Now also they want to clear the forest, and they want to build a surrounding dam. Already I have given my objection, and I told the government that if you want to solve the question of water in those areas, you can go for the Vasanta Bandaras. When you can see 36 Vasanta Bandara built in Goa, providing water to the whole of the Goa, why not you are following this? But you know, these people want to destroy the core forest. They want to, you can see how, you know, now the government want to conduct the jeep safari on the plateau of the Sulla, where the department, the forest department, through the camera traps, established the presence of the tiger.
So they want to do a jeep safari there.
Jeep safari. Then the sarpanch of one of the village panchayat want to construct new road connecting the Satre, the village in the core zone of the Mahadev Wildlife Sanctuary, connecting it to the Kankumbi, when already you can see Chola Ghat road is there, and now under the FRC they opened up the Pali road.
Okay.
So when all this is there, they want to, they had having this hidden agenda to
restart mining.
Yeah, restart mining and destroy the forest. And you can see what is going on in the Wageri. Wageri, the abode of the tiger. If you see whatever videos released by me, photograph released by me, and shamefully the same government took the decision and taken the action on those people who are chopping these wageri. So this is happening.
But Sujoy, Supreme Court has already said that no mining in wildlife sanctuaries. Forget about tiger reserve. You cannot do it anyway in the wildlife sanctuary, and 1 kilometer buffer zone is there. These are applicable to wildlife sanctuaries already. Whether you say tiger reserve or you don't say that, the law is there. It's already applicable.
Milima, one interesting development has happened after the judgment. In fact, I read in one of the other newspapers today that the people of Sattari are apparently agitating against this judgment, saying that it is going to affect their, their lives, their livelihoods, plus it's going to affect many people who live in the periphery of the forest, and the fact that there is this great opposition. But tell me, as a forester, when you have a wildlife sanctuary or when you have a tiger reserve as it is now, as long as the core area is devoid of population, there is no problem in having people in the buffer areas. So ultimately, how will people actually get affected? I mean, will they get affected if there is a tiger reserve there?
People will get affected only in the sense that they won't be able to get their encroachments, till date encroachments regularized. That is the only.
He's hit the point on his head.
Yes.
Hit the nail on the head.
Yes,
That
yes.
is the.
Yes.
But that is the only thing, because they have been kept up till now on this hope that you'll get, don't worry, go on encroaching. This has been, and not now. Last 50 years this is happening. Go encroach.
Inside the wildlife sanctuary. Anyway.
Inside wildlife, that time wildlife sanctuary was not that, it was only forest.
Right.
And now when our officers went to stop them, they used to say, no, we have been told by our leader, who are you to tell us?
You face this as well?
No,
during your tenure.
No, my subordinates said.
No, that's something. During your tenure, you heard.
Yes, very much. They were not bothered, and just few years back, they had stopped the forest officers from entering the sanctuary area. People had stopped.
I know, we saw that. We did one investigation and we found the same thing as well.
Yes. So how can they do it? Because they are disciplined people. They follow the orders of their bosses, and they do accordingly.
Right.
I don't see any other reason for that.
That is why, see, in the judgment, one of the directions is that do not allow any more encroachment. That's one of the directions that is given to the state, that see that no more people are encroaching. Obviously, the court is aware of the encroachments that are happening.
Correct.
All the time.
Rajan Bab, I'll just refer to, and I'll come to Norma also on the same issue. You see, what has happened is that the Ntca at all points of time, have very specifically said, even in court, irrespective of what they've done or not done, that any recommendation given to the state government to have a tiger reserve, it should be seen as a direction and not as a recommendation, in effect. Okay. They've also quoted section 38O of the WLPA, Wildlife Prevention Act. So he very clearly said that whatever communication that the Ntca made to the state government constituted not only the recommendations as contemplated by section 38V of the Act, but also directions as contemplated by section 38O of the Wildlife Prevention Act. My question to you is that when there was such a clear cut, we'll use the word direction, taking the cue from para 9 of the judgment. My point is, all these years, let us not talk only of this government. There was a government before this as well. So the issue is that, whether it is from 2016 to now, there was one government of the same party, albeit, and then another government of the same party. Why did they not, press upon this particular clause of 38O and go ahead and do it? Because, you can say this forest minister has not done it, that forest minister has not done it, but my issue is that the government as a whole could have taken advantage of this 38O and done it immediately.
So when Pramod Sawant was the forest minister, having the additional charge of the forest ministry, during his period, you can see, as per the Ntca guideline, forest department established the watchtower in Wageri. So when the work was going in the concealed manner, no one was aware about it. So when it was completed, somebody, the villager informed the
Right.
politician, and he immediately started bombarding question on the officer
Right.
not to complete, but in spite of his objection, the watchtower was completed. The anti-poaching squad, anti-poaching camp, they began to establish, and also posted some of the officials there.
Right.
But in spite of this, when the ministry was transferred,
Right.
afterward everything was stopped. So this was done purposefully, and
Right.
you can see this year,
Right.
whatever forest fires
Right.
took place, the minister only said that this is the man-made.
Right. Right.
Got it,
Correct.
no?
Correct. Absolutely.
And then suddenly the government says no, there are also natural factor responsible. So all this indicates that they want to destroy the forest, they want to legalize the encroachment. They know that this encroachment, whatever done, from 1999 till this date, even today you go in the jungle, you will find a fresh cutting. And in various newspaper, I have written the article about how the forest is destroyed. We released the video, got it, no? After our releasing of the video, the government took the action, and the officers were totally helpless. So they are not allowed to take the action, and right from 1999 to this date, you can see how many range forest officer of the Mahadai got transferred. They could not complete their term. Why this is happening only in Sattari Taluka, when the rest of the Goa, you can say one officer is posted dead, he remain at least for 3-year period.
But in Sattari?
Sattari, you just go in Kodal, in Mavali for example, office is there, and you can see the just board, take the photographs, and you will find how many times the officers are transferred. Recently the transfer was made because he was not allowing them very good report as far as the Sattari Parvat road is concerned. So he said that this area tiger presence
Is
felt,
there,
yeah,
felt.
and also the landslide of Ambassador Gower taken place. How a range forest officer could take such decision? So this is,
And he was transferred immediately after.
yeah.
Yeah, that tells the story. Milind Bab, during your time also, did you face this?
No, not in Sattari.
Ah, okay.
I faced it in Darbandoda area,
Okay.
where the politicians wanted to construct a road through forest for transporting mine ore,
Right.
which I did not permit them. Being DCF, I myself went and stopped.
I'll draw your attention to a couple of observations made by the Ntca fact-finding report when they came here after the deaths of the tigers in 2020. I'll just read it out to you and tell me how you feel as a forest officer, because it's a severe indictment on the entire forest community and community of officials. I'll just read this for the benefit of our viewers. All of you all know what the Ntca report has said, but I'll just read this so that our viewers can also note. The references that the Ntca sent a fact-finding committee after the death of 4 tigers in Sattari, in Madai in 2020, and they gave a very strong report and a severe indictment on the government. It says, the report says, it gives an impression that wildlife management appears to be a subject that is of least priority for the Goa Forest Department. One observation. Second observation, not all is well with the management of the Madai Wildlife Sanctuary. According to Madai wildlife activists, presence of tigers inside the Madai WLS is a well documented and well known fact. The High Court in its para 56 of its judgment reflects this particular report and states, the Ntca expert committee reported that unfortunately even after more than 2 decades since Madai WLS was declared as a wildlife sanctuary, it was managed on a completely ad hoc basis, as no management plan existed for such an important sanctuary of the Western Ghats. And then the court judgment also quotes the Ntca report and reiterates, it gives an impression that wildlife management appears to be a subject which is of least priority to the Goa Forest Department. What do you feel when you read these words as a forester?
No, you see, as we were discussing, and as it has been clearly mentioned in the judgment, there is no mention of consequences of not abiding by the law. You know, if NTPC is saying something and asking us something, and if we are not doing it, who is going to do what to us?
Right, right, correct, absolutely.
That feeling in my mind makes me to keep quiet. Let them do. They are doing their work. I will do my work. This is a simple thing. But those who are having some the will to do something, they do. Others don't do.
Does this brazenness surprise you, Norma? This absolute brazenness in.
You know, as the Goa Foundation, we have had a very, I will say, close relationship with the Forest Department in earlier times. I am talking 20-30 years ago. Milind Karkanis was there also as a forest officer, because forest officers were there to protect and defend the forest. This is my experience of 20-30 years ago. Today, I am not so sure, not because the forest officers are not committed, are not knowledgeable themselves,
right,
but somebody seems to be sitting on their heads. So it's become a question of what Milind is saying. If there are no consequences, why stick my neck out?
Right.
The court asked Ntca officer, lawyer this.
Right.
You say you issued a direction to the Goa government to set up a tiger reserve. They did not do it. Couldn't you do something? And I am sorry to say that the Ntca official, the lawyer, after consulting with whoever was sitting in the audience, said that, well, what can we do? We have to wait for them to do something.
But he himself knows that he has the power of 38.
He has the power.
Of
He has
38.
he has the power.
Yes.
And that is why the court even said that in your meetings which you are holding, please discuss your powers. You are issuing directions. Please discuss what powers you have. The powers under the Act, especially a chapter for tigers, introduced in 2006. Prime Ministers chairing your meetings. This is a premier flagship project, Project Tiger. And here is a state which is told to set up a tiger reserve, which folds its hands, does nothing for 7 years, and now when the court is about to take a judgment, sends a pipsqueak reply through the state board saying, we don't want a tiger reserve for Goa.
And
what is this?
And what do you make of the reaction after the judgment? The immediate knee-jerk reaction of going to
We will appeal.
Yes.
We will appeal. You have not even read the judgment. At least the Advocate General had the courtesy and the decency to say, let me read the judgment and see if there is a ground. Let me read.
Right.
But the minister was immediately, we'll appeal the judgment. Of course, everybody can appeal a judgment. That's the law is set up in that way. But I think that if you go to the Supreme Court, it's not just a question of what the state government wants. It's a question of the Ntca directing you to set up a tiger reserve, having consulted with all other factors. Because remember, Sujoy, 31st March 2016 is a kind of watershed letter as I see.
That's right.
Events were there which led up to it. It didn't come out of nowhere.
Correct. Correct.
And pursuant to 31/3/2016, Ntca 3 times does things to Goa.
Correct.
It sends a reminder.
Right.
That Debashri Swain came and visited.
That's correct.
He was told that we have decided all 4 sanctuaries.
Right.
It then comes when the tiger deaths are, and in 2022 last year they
Right.
again sent one more reminder.
Right.
So 31st March 2016, which the Goa Foundation said was a recommendation,
Right.
the Ntca said was a direction. It is a watershed moment.
Correct.
Before and after.
Correct.
That is how it is. So why, when there is so many reminders, so much of evidence which is being placed before you,
Right.
and you got 4 deaths on your hands,
Right.
proof, you cannot say that they are not there.
Correct.
And the tiger corridor is vital for tiger movement. There is a tiger reserve in Kali, there is a tiger reserve in Bhimgad. There is Goa which is acting as a corridor, and it is required because otherwise if a tiger reserve gets too crowded, overcrowded with the population, the males have to move and find new areas. That is the law of nature. That
correct.
is the law of nature.
Just, I'll like to point out 2 paragraphs from the letter that Jairam Ramesh wrote to Digambar Kamath, and I'm particularly keen to point out this letter because there were 2 reactions from Digambar Kamath and Alice Sequeira, former
Yes.
Environment Minister, in our paper, where Digambar Kamath says, don't ask me, ask the government. Digambar Kamath, who's currently a BJP MLA. Alice Sequeira actually went on to say that there is absolutely no justification, or he actually said that there is no support for a tiger reserve amongst the people of Goa. I will contrast these two statements from just two paragraphs in Jairam Ramesh's letter. Ramesh to Digambar. In a study carried out in 2008, the Wildlife Institute of India has pointed out that the protected areas of Goa and the contiguous forests in Karnataka and Maharashtra are possibly some of the best potential tiger habitats in the Western Ghats region, and they are in need of protection. This is Jairam Ramesh to Digambar Kamath. In the next paragraph, he says, I understand there is considerable local community support for the creation of a tiger reserve and for wildlife conservation. By declaring Madai Wildlife Sanctuary as a tiger reserve, we would also ensure long-term protection of biodiversity-rich areas. This is a Congress Environment Minister writing to a Congress Chief Minister with a current MLA who happens to be in the BJP now, saying that there is no support. I just wanted to point out this irony of how local politicians who have the power to ensure that a proper mandate of forest protection is carried out are actually nullifying it by ignoring and turning a blind eye to facts that are very, very clearly available. Rajam, your quick response, and I'll go on to two important issues: double tracking and the Madai River. And before we end this, so one is, what do you make of this, of politicians completely, almost running away from the judgment?
Yeah, they are running away from the judgment because they want to support the ideology of a politician who want to destroy all this forest, wildlife. I remember that once upon a time, this area where the Madai Wildlife Sanctuary is created, it is the breeding taking place of the tiger.
Right.
And you can see the 2013, the Dr. Ullas Karan, the well-known scientist, internationally acclaimed, he has mentioned that tiger that was camera trapped by the forest department and reconfirmed by his team, Dr.
Right.
Samba Kumar,
Right.
is unique, and whatever database they were having, it is not recorded.
Right.
It is from the Goa region. So Goa is not only the tiger corridor, but it is the perfect habitat for the tiger, and that is why you can see the Wag Dongor, Wageri, Wag View, all this is there. So these people, politicians, they believe that they would going to win continuously, and they are fooling the voters and giving them jobs, tall promises which could not be fulfilled. So they want to carry forward this agenda.
Two important issues. Do you think this judgment is also going to probably be a savior for our Mother Madai? Because once it's declared as a tiger reserve, do you feel that this has become a small, big handle for argument to protect Madai, because the diversion of the waters from the Madai itself will not be possible under this protection?
I can cite you a simple example. Goa government, when the DPR was approved by the CWC, immediately they wrote the letter to the Ministry of Environment and Forest, because in the newspaper I wrote the article that where the Karnataka want to carry the work of the Kalsa, Bhandura, Haltara and Sulla project.
Right.
All this area is a tiger corridor,
Right.
and this is not my finding.
Right.
This is the finding of the Kankumbi forest range of the Karnataka.
Right.
So immediately they wrote to the ministry, Goa government wrote to the ministry,
Yeah.
when the EC was in process to be given to the Karnataka.
Right.
At this juncture,
Right.
the ministry issued the show cause notice to the Karnataka.
Right. Right.
This is tiger corridor.
Correct.
Give your say. Now the EC, which was in process, got held up.
Right. Correct.
So what happened now? We were telling Goa government, use only one shield, that is Madai Wildlife Sanctuary,
Yes.
to protect. And because of this Madai Wildlife Sanctuary, now Karnataka, as per new plan, as
Right.
per the revised DPR, they earlier it was just 317 meter away from the Madai Wildlife Sanctuary. Now the new site is 3 kilometer away from the Madai Wildlife Sanctuary.
Right. Right. Right.
You can see, and earlier the size, the length, of the dam was very big, so now they reduced to the 10 meter, 5 meter. So this has happened only because of the tiger, only because of the wildlife.
William Bob, do you think Madhi will get saved because of this judgment?
Now, as far as my personal appreciation goes, there is nothing to be saved as far as Mahadai is concerned.
Why do you say so?
Mahadai already diverted. Mahadai river is already diverted. Now save Mahadai, we will not give any a drop of Mahadai to Karnataka. It's useless, meaningless this is. They are already diverted. Already water has gone. To what extent it actually serves their purpose, God knows. But it is really doubtful because the place from where it has been diverted doesn't have much source.
Right.
Much heavy source.
Right.
Partly comes to us.
Right.
But very small part.
Right.
And other part, but that whole part itself is very small.
Right.
So whatever goes to Karnataka to that Malaprabha river
Yes.
is very small quantity.
Right.
So now there is no scope to reverse it now.
Right. Okay.
So only advantage will be no. Now see, there are 18 tributaries of Mandavi
Right.
in that full basin.
Right.
So they have plans to divert all of them. That they won't be able to do.
Right. Very important point.
Yes. This is important.
Okay. Now we are coming to the end of our discussion. Two quick points. One is, of course, we just want to touch upon the issue of double tracking, because the court also in one of these paragraphs spoke about the whole double tracking from the Castle Rock area.
Yeah.
And they said that there was a I think there was a Supreme Court judgment in a Goa Foundation petition also, where they actually said that because of the presence of the forest there, the double tracking itself cannot be allowed.
Actually, when the double tracking was all the three infrastructure projects.
Linear projects, yes.
Goa Foundation sent a complaint
Right.
to the Central Empowered Committee.
Right.
And the Central Empowered Committee came and made a visit to
Right.
the Bhagwan Mahavir Wildlife Sanctuary,
Right.
that area.
Right.
And they made several remarks about coal and so on.
Right.
One of them was about the fact that this area is tiger area.
Right.
Why did the state board not take the opinion of the Ntca before it made the recommendation to the to allow
They should have
gotten it, because
Right.
in the case of Karnataka,
Yes.
they went to the state to the Ntca and
Right.
Ntca said no.
Right.
Whereas here they did not go to anybody. They made their recommendation, passing it, as Milind has said, that
Right.
matters come, nobody presents it, nobody is there who strongly presents a case, matters just get approved. But they did not take Ntca permission, knowing already that these letters were there with the Goa government.
Correct.
There is a recommendation already with
That's
the Goa
correct.
government. So that was also carried by the Supreme Court in its judgment, saying that Ntca approval ought to have been taken, and they stopped the railway line in that sense from there till they did a fresh study.
I'll just quote from para 22 of the Supreme Court judgment, which Advocate Norma is referring to. The landscape in which the railway line is proposed to pass is an important tiger corridor connecting the three states of Goa, Karnataka and Maharashtra. The report prepared by Ntca regarding the viability of such a railway line is only for the Karnataka part of the project. No such report has been prepared for the Goa part.
Yeah.
So this is what you are actually
That is
referring.
what was said.
Yes.
That it's the same railway line.
Yes.
Karnataka is taking the permission.
Correct.
You are not taking any permission. You are simply giving it.
Correct.
When the Ntca has recommended a tiger reserve for Goa also, and it's a tiger corridor, very important.
Okay, the last point, I'll refer it to both of you and then Norma will finally conclude. You see, what has happened is that there is this constant discussion over the settlement of forest dwellers, and they're all along saying that the forest dweller settlement needs to be done first before you do this. And what has happened is, for years and years and years, I think for 54 years with regard to one sanctuary, and for 24 years with regard to another sanctuary, from the time the sanctuaries were notified, forest rights have not been settled. And I'll quote from a very strong paragraph from the judgment. It states that when it comes to determining and settling the rights and claims of forest dwellers, the state of Goa has defaulted in compliance with the time schedule specified in the Wildlife Protection Act. Further, the state of Goa, in defiance of directions of the Honorable Court dated 22/8/1997, has failed to determine and settle the rights of forest dwellers. In the next paragraph, the judgment says, the state of Goa, please hear this carefully, wishes to take undue advantage of its wrongful acts of defying the statutory timelines and the express directions of the Honorable Supreme Court on this subject. Such an excuse can hardly be countenanced. Based upon such reason and by trying to take undue advantage of its lapse, the state is not justifying in not notifying the said area as a tiger reserve. Now, if this is not the last word on the subject, quoting the Supreme Court as well, and accusing or very clearly directing the state to take its various actions and blaming the state for defying Supreme Court directions, I don't know what else can be the last word on the subject. Rajan Babu, your comments.
When the sanctuary notification was issued, only 31 villages are there. But remember, a misconception is created in Goa that the people who are residing, the villager residing in this area, had to be rehabilitated.
Right.
So this is totally wrong and misleading,
Right.
because while preparing this notification, only the forested area, for example in Kopade, only one survey number is there.
Right.
In Naneli, only one survey number is there. So these areas will be included into score and the rest will be in the buffer zone.
Yes.
Now, why these issues are created, I don't understand. So you can see out of these 31 villages, Kadwa, only two houses.
Right.
Then the Wangini, 4 houses are there.
Right.
So these houses, families could be rehabilitated in Nanoda.
Right.
And the rest villages like the Jhadani, Pendral, then the Kiraude, Hanjune, Gule and Ponsuli, or no single house is there, no single family reside as per the census of the government. And then why government is opposing the idea of creation of the tiger reserve is totally disgusting for us. So whatever mentioned by the court is a reality, and Goa government does not want to settle the right of these people because they are fully aware that this is encroachment. How they could legalize some of the encroachment?
Your final words on.
Yeah, since long the process of settlement of rights as per the Indian Forest Act 1927 and the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, this process has been should have been completed by now. At that time only, within 2 or 3 years, maybe maximum 5 years.
Yeah, not 54 years and 24 years.
54 they are not taking it. Nobody is taking any call on that. But I have myself requested the concerned authorities in the politics.
Now, for final question.
It was not done.
Right. Before we end, now the final question is this whole narrative that because of this notification, proposed notification or directed notification, the rights of the forest dwellers are going to be impacted. Now, of course, we know that they have not been settled so far, but even at this point of time, what do you have to say to this this whole apprehension?
I think simply a bogey is being raised,
Yeah.
that a lot of people will have to go out, where will we rehabilitate them, where will we put them, and so on. The fact of the matter is that when the tiger reserve was being notified, in fact even when the Made wildlife sanctuaries were being notified, they kept all the settlements out as
Right.
much as they could.
Right.
In the tiger reserve, when it was demarcated,
Right.
there is a specific note sent to the chief minister,
Right.
to the state board,
Right.
saying that all the habitable villages have been kept out,
Right.
and
Right.
there are a few houses, I think it says,
Right.
which are within the tiger reserve area. If they are in the core zone, they can be resettled in the buffer zone.
Right.
And if they are in the buffer zone, they can remain there, because the buffer zone has to keep people there, because the project Tiger is also promoting tourism,
Right.
wildlife viewing.
Right.
You need people in that area. So none of the people have to go out of that area. Moreover, what is the only thing that is happening is that the status changes. It's a
Right.
name which changes.
Right.
From being a wildlife sanctuary, it now becomes a tiger reserve.
That's right.
And that change of status enables the Goa government to draw vast amount of monies from the central government, which can be used for the rehabilitation of people, for giving them better facilities, for employing them as forest guards, as guides, as many things. So it's advantage, advantage, advantage all the way. And I am glad that despite what the politicians have said, which you have quoted, there is a vast public support in Goa, as I've seen in the newspapers and so on, support for having a tiger reserve for Goa. That gladdens me no end.
Yes, indeed, and I think this discussion has also gladdened anybody who loves Goa, its forests, its wildlife, and this will have its ramifications all over the country. We are really short of time, but I think we must end with a great note of optimism, and the fact that if the right causes are fought for, we always have at least one pillar of democracy, which is the judiciary, and the other pillar of democracy, the responsible press, which will together take this fight. But ultimately, we must understand that these fights are won if there is a groundswell of people's support, which has been there in this particular case, and that gives us a lot of optimism as this fight goes on. But I think we must all bask in this victory, where not only our forests, but our tigers, but our future has been protected. And I think the generations that come after us will have to thank us and people like Norma and Claude for whatever they have done. Thank you very much.